Hello, welcome everyone to the undergraduate student funding webinar. My name's Rob Fowler. I'm a senior student money advisor in the student life team at the University of Derby. I work as part of the wider student services team. This evening's presentation is designed to give you a general overview of undergraduate student funding. We'll be looking at the application process, assessment, payments and repayment, so everything to do with student funding and how to get that. After the presentation, we'll have an opportunity for any questions that you may have, so don't be afraid to ask any questions at the end. A recording of this webinar will be available at the end of the event, so you can revisit any specific areas of interest. Just as an introduction to the University of Derby, we are top 20 for teaching quality. We are top 20 in the UK for overall student satisfaction. Our university halls were voted the best university housing and the best environmental management. Derby it's an affordable city for students to live and to work. So there's plenty of opportunities available to earn while you're learning at the university. We can offer guidance and support throughout your studies through the support we offer through the student life team and through student services at the University of Derby. So to start the presentation, your two main costs at university each year will be your tuition fees and your living costs. Tuition fees, that's the amount of money that you need to pay the university each year to be on the course that you're studying. Living costs essentially covers everything that isn't the tuition fee. So everything from accommodation, utility bills, food, travel, clothes, books, pens and paper, everything you need to study whilst at university that isn't the tuition fee, that comes under the banner of living costs. Looking at Derby as a university city, accommodation in University Hall starts anywhere from about £115 a week for a shared flat in halls. There's more expensive accommodation available, obviously, in halls if you're looking for a private ensuite room, but accommodation does start around £115. From a point of view of general living costs, weekly food shop, you're looking at anywhere between £30 and £50 a week, depending on your spending patterns, but you're looking at somewhere around that as a budget. There are laptop loans available from the university library. There's gym membership from £15 a month. You can get something good to eat from around £2.50. You can attend Derby Theatre from anywhere from around £5 for a ticket for a student, and again the Quad Cinema in the centre of town, anything from about £8.50. So a really affordable city to attend university at. So the support available, so the support that you'll see while you're a student. You can get support for your tuition fees via the tuition fee loan. There's a maintenance loan. You may hear it referred to as the living cost loan, but it's the maintenance loan. If you're doing a healthcare course or an NHS course, so nursing, for example, there's sometimes additional maintenance funding based on the length of the academic year, because the academic year tends to be a little bit longer. Also, university bursaries and scholarships. So, all the universities will offer, some kind of university bursary or scholarship. The university bursaries at the university are currently all under review. So, any information for academic year 2024-25 should go live on the university website shortly. So, payment of tuition fees, first of all. So the tuition fee loan. Tuition fees are always £9,250, and the tuition fee loan equally is £9,250. So if you take this loan, you don't need to pay the fees up front. The student loans company will pay the amount of money direct to the university, so it doesn't go through the student. It bypasses the student and goes straight to the university by the student loans company. It's non-income assessed. That means it's not assessed on anyone's household income. So regardless of your household income and the level of household income, every student will be entitled to the tuition fee loan of £9,250. Just bear in mind that again, with any of this funding, any of the loans, it's available, but you don't have to take it. And if you're not taking it, just bear in mind that certainly with the tuition fees, if you're not taking out the loan, that means that you will need to arrange payment of your tuition fees, at the point of enrolment. But if you are taking out the loan, then essentially your fees will be paid by the student loans company at the point of enrolment. The maintenance loan, so the living cost loan, this is the money that's paid to you as a student into your bank account over the academic year to pay for your accommodation, your bills, your food, your travel, for everything you need to pay for comes through the maintenance loan. If you're living away from the parental home, you can get a maximum of £10,227 for academic year 24-25. That's based on a household income of under £25,000. The minimum loan that you can receive is £4,767. Again, that's based on the higher threshold, which is a household income of around £62,000. If you're living at home, so that's in the parental home and commuting to university, you can get up to £8,610 as a maximum and £3,790 as a minimum. If you're studying a healthcare course, so again, nursing, occupational therapy, diagnostic radiography and midwifery, I think come under that bracket, you can get a slightly increased loan due to the number of weeks in the academic year. So a standard course will have about 40 weeks, whereas an NHS course will have about 45. So sometimes there's 5 weeks extra funding available. If you want to get a good idea of what you're going to be entitled to while you're studying, you can go onto gov.uk and have a look at their student funding calculator. You can navigate on gov.uk through education and learning, student finance, and then the calculator, or any kind of internet search on any of the keywords student funding calculator will take you here very quickly. It only asks you about 4 or 5 questions about what type of student are you, so full-time undergraduate, for example, asks you when your course starts, asks you what your annual household income is, so that's parental gross income. And it will tell you very clearly and very quickly what your funding is going to look like. So based on your household income, it will tell you what your maintenance loan will be. So it's a really useful tool, really easy to access. Takes less than a minute to complete, and it will just give you a really good idea of what funding you can expect when you arrive at university. So when it comes to the assessment of student funding, in the first instance, any student under the age of 25 is assessed as a dependent student. That means that Student Finance England are looking to assess a student based on their parental household income. If parents are separated or divorced, then they assess the income of the natural parent the student normally lives with. If that parent is remarried or is living with a partner, then they assess their income as well. Anybody else in the household, so any siblings, brothers, sisters, anyone else that's in the household who is also working, their income is not assessed. It is only the income of the parent or parents that Student Finance England assess. So if you're under 25, in the first instance, you're classed as dependent, so dependent on parents, so parents' income is assessed. The alternative to that is independent student status. So students who are assessed as independent students mean that Student Finance England disregard parental income and they assess the student on their own circumstances. That means that they will assess the student's income, and the student's income is always zero, because a full-time student is never assessed as having any income. But if the student has a partner, then the partner's income is assessed, but parental income is not. Now, for independent student status, in the first instance, it's based on age. So if a student is over 25 on the first day of the academic year, they are automatically independent. If a student is under 25, but has been financially self-supporting for 3 years prior to the start of the course, they can be independent, and that normally relies on a student just providing evidence of income for 3 years to Student Finance England, and they can assess a student as independent on that basis. If a student is married, regardless of age, they are independent. If they have a child, regardless of age, they are independent. If a student is estranged from parents or has no living parents, then they will automatically be classed as independent as well. But other than those criteria for independent status, if a student is under 25, Student Finance England are looking very, very, very firmly at parental household income. So when it comes to applying for student funding, if you're starting in September 2024, then the funding application is open now. It opened in the first week of March 2024. The deadline for application that Student Finance England will always quote is the end of May. Now, what they mean by the deadline is that if you apply by the deadline, they will guarantee that your funding is in place by September, so for the start of the course. This year, 17th of May is the deadline that's quoted by Student Finance England. So if you apply before the 17th of May, then they guarantee that your funding will be in place for September start. It's not an absolute firm deadline, because you can still apply for funding up to 9 months after the start of the course. So you can apply for funding up to May 2025, but it's not advisable because you won't have your funding in place for September. So as a deadline, as a practical deadline, 17th of May, apply for your student funding by that date, and your funding will be in place for a September start. It's worth saying that you don't need to have a confirmed place on a course to apply for your student funding. So if you're thinking, of waiting until you know exactly what you're doing before applying for your student funding, don't do that if it means that you're going to miss the 17th of May deadline. The application will ask you for the name of a university and the name of a course. So on that basis, just put down your best guess. So if you think you're going to University A doing course A, then put that information down and it will assess your student funding on that basis. Because student funding is the same nationally, it doesn't matter where you're going or what you're studying, the student funding will essentially remain the same. So apply on your best guess. Student Finance England will then assess your student funding, and that will be done. Later in the application process, if your university choices change, so if the university changes, if the course changes, you can log back onto your account, change the name of the university and or the course. That will update overnight. Your student funding won't change because it is the same wherever you go, but it just means that the correct details are on your application for the point of enrolment, because it's just really important that when you enroll, the university you enroll at has got to be the same as the university on your application. Otherwise, the information won't match, and you may see a delay in your student funding coming through. So apply early, and just be mindful that you don't need to have a confirmed place on a course to apply for your student funding. So always apply for your funding first. Now, once you've applied, you've enrolled at university. The maintenance loan is paid to you in 3 instalments over the academic year. So it's paid in September, January and April. You'll get a payment schedule from Student Finance England prior to enrolment, assuming you've applied for your student funding, and it will give you 3 dates on that payment schedule. The April date will be correct. The January date will be correct. The September date will show the first day of the academic year at that university. And now that may not correspond exactly to the day you get paid, because you normally get paid your student funding 3 to 5 days after enrolment. So for example, if it were to say the 14th of September as a payment date, and that was the day of enrolment, then you enroll on the 14th of September, say that's a Monday, and you'll probably get your student funding through on the Thursday. So just be mindful of that the date on the payment schedule for September may not exactly correspond to the date where the money arrives in your account, but the January payment date will, and the April payment date will. Worth just saying that loans aren't repayable until after the course is completed. We will have a look at repayments in the next couple of slides. So student loans are all put together as one amount that's owing to the student loans company. So tuition fees and living costs over the period of study. So say tuition fees and living costs over a 3-year period. It's all put together into one repayable amount, but you don't pay anything back until you're earning over £25,000 a year. And by that's your own gross income. So your parents don't pay anything back. Any future partner doesn't pay anything back. Your children don't pay anything back. It's just you as the student based on your future earnings. So up to £25,000, there's no repayment. Once you fall into repayments, and we'll have a look at that on the next couple of slides, you'll pay 9% of your income over that threshold. So 9% of any income over £25,000 you will pay to the student loans company. It's taken the stoppages through your wages, so it will be taken before you get the money, your wages, into your account. But again, we'll have a look at that in a second. Any balances are written off after 40 years. So anything that you owe to the student loans company, you'll pay back based on their repayment thresholds for a maximum period of 40 years. If you pay everything back within that period, then it's all paid back. Any remaining balances, so even if you still owed 100% of the loans borrowed after 40 years, that would all be written off once you reach that 40 years. So just to give you an idea, in real world terms, what the repayments will look like. So up to £25,000, there is no repayment. You pay nothing back. And then after that, you pay 9% of your income. So if we look at it and try and keep it as simple as possible, if you're earning £26,000, that means that you're earning £1,000 over the threshold. So 9% of £1,000 is £90 a year. Divided by 12 months of the year, that's £7.50 a month. So if you work on that basis, so essentially what you're repaying is for every £1,000 that you earn over the threshold, you will pay £7.50 a month. So at £26,000 income, you're paying £7.50 a month. If you're earning £27,000, that's £2,000 over the threshold, you'll pay £15 a month. £30,000, you'll pay £37.50, and so on. So the more you earn, the more you will repay as a percentage of your earnings. So on screen now, it just shows you a general idea of what you'll repay. So, for example, if you're earning £50,000, you're paying £187.50 back to the student loans company. So that's how the repayments work. But bear in mind, if you're not earning £25,000, then you won't be paying anything back. Again, just a little bit of context as to what these payments, may look like in real world terms. So if we look at £30,000 income, you'll be paying £37.50 a month back to the student loans company in stoppages. So you'll have your gross income, and then that will be deducted from your income. But next to that, on that same income, you'll be paying about £290 a month in income tax and about £145 a month in national insurance. So the repayment of your student loan will normally and probably and actually be the least significant, of the stoppages that you will pay, when you're earning. So if you're earning £40,000, you'll be paying £112.50, but you'll also be paying, over £600 a month in tax and national insurance. So don't think that the student loan repayment is going to be the most significant, of your outgoings. It won't be. And these are all taken as stoppages. So when you get paid your wages as a net amount, all of this has been taken. So you won't have to actively go and pay the student loans company any money on a monthly basis. It will already be taken into account when you get paid. As we referred to at the beginning of the presentation, there's additional financial support or additional maintenance loan support if you're doing nursing or an allied health care course. There's also additional funding from the NHS if you're doing one of those courses. So again, nursing, occupational therapy, diagnostic radiography, midwifery. If you're doing any of those courses, you can also apply for a training grant from the NHS, which is £5,000 a year. If as a student you are also a parent, so you've got a child or children, you can get £2,000 a year in parental support. You can also apply for support for travel and dual accommodation expenses if you're doing, for when you're doing placements on these courses. It's important to say that this support is non-means tested and it is not repayable. So that means that they don't have any interest in your household income. So regardless of your household income, you can always get this support on those courses. And at the end of the course, they don't ask you to pay it back. So, for example, if you're getting a training grant for the 3 years of the course, that means that you'll get £5,000 a year, £15,000 a year over the length of the course. And after the course is finished, they won't ask you to pay any of that back. So it's unusual when it comes to student funding that someone is going to give you money that you don't need to pay back. But on this occasion, through the NHS, that's the case with these courses. So again, when you're having a look at your student funding, when you've had a look at the funding through Student Finance England, have a look on the NHS. So it's the NHS Learning Support Fund. Any kind of internet search on NHS LSF or NHS Learning Support Fund will take you straight to the information, and that's where the application sits as well. There's a lot of information available online about student funding, about universities, about what's available. So individual university websites. If you go onto the University of Derby website, loads of information there about the university, about the courses that you're looking at studying, about what you can expect when you're studying, about student life, everything to do. So anything from the courses to funding to accommodation, it's all there on the university website. So have a look, derby.ac.uk. Have a look on there. Also, Student Finance England, all of their information lives on the student room. So have a look on the student room. Again, any kind of internet search on Student Finance England, SFE will take you there. So loads and loads of information. If all else fails, click on the internet and just type in any of the keywords: student funding, student finance, anything like that, and it will take you to a world of information. Essential tips. What we would always say, again, is apply for student funding as soon as possible. So the earliest opportunity, and the application is open now. Apply for your student funding as soon as you can. Don't wait to know where you're going or what you're doing. Apply for your student funding just so it's done. The earlier you apply, then the quicker it will be for the assessment. If you apply now, there'll be a lower number of applications at the moment, so it should go through relatively quickly, maybe even in a couple of weeks. If you wait until right at the end, or even until the summer, so June, July, then it can take significantly longer. So apply early is always the key message. Try and work out a budget plan before you start university. So you should be able to go on the calculator, and even through your student funding application, you will have a really good idea of what funding you're getting. Have a look at what your outgoings are going to be. So have a look at accommodation, have a look at your general living costs. You will have a good idea yourself of what your expenditure will be. Compare that to your student income. have one column for money coming in, one column for money going out, take one number from the other, and then you'll see quite clearly what your budget looks like. So on that basis, just give yourself an idea of what you're going to be dealing with when you enroll at university. Open a student bank account, have a word with your bank, see what benefits they can give you for opening a student bank account. They will often give you an interest-free overdraft. So again, as a budgeting tool, that can be quite useful, having a couple of £100 just sitting there in the background as a safety net if you ever do go overdrawn. It's important to have an approved overdraft on your account, not necessarily to use it, but just to have it as a safety net. If you go overdrawn without an approved overdraft, then the banks will charge you for that privilege. So if you've got an overdraft in place, even as a safety net, even if you never use it, just have it just in case on that one occasion over 3 years. If you ever go overdrawn, it just means that you won't incur any additional charges. There's loads of information again on the university website about cost of living. So there's tips for budgeting, there's getting through the cost of living crisis, about shopping, about everything to do with money, budgeting, money management. There's loads of information on there. And I suppose really the bottom line is don't panic. It can seem overwhelming. It can seem like there's so much to do. You've got to think about your studies, about the course. You've got to think about your funding and the application. Don't be overwhelmed by it. When it comes to student funding, you're applying for 2 loans. You're applying for a tuition fee loan and a maintenance loan. It's a single point of application. Yes, there's a lot of questions, but just keep answering, one question after another. Start with the first question, end with the last question. If you get through 1 or 2 sections of the application and you want to save and exit, you can do that and then go on the next day and start again. Realistically, it shouldn't take you more than about an hour to do the full application, even if you've never seen it before. So don't be overwhelmed. Don't panic. We have a lot of open days, or we have open days at the university where you can come and experience the university, have a look for yourself, see what it's like, meet some of the staff, meet some of the students. The next open day is Saturday, the 22nd of June. You'll have an opportunity, like I say, to have a look around, to speak to members of staff. We will be there. We are always there as a student services team. So we'll have a student services stand. We have a funding stand. So you can come and speak to me and the other members of my team about student funding. If you've got any questions, if you've got any concerns, if there's anything you're not quite sure about, come and have a chat with us at the open day. But do come and have a look. Do come and have a look around. It's really important, to have a look at where you're thinking of going. So if you're thinking of coming to Derby, come and have a look, come and have a chat with us. It's really important to have a look around and to see exactly what's available. If you want to get in touch with me or my team at any point after this event, you can there's 4 of us in the team, student money advisors in the team, so a relatively small team within student services. You can email us directly, smart@derby.ac.uk. So that will either get you through to me or any of the 3 members of the team. So any questions, any queries at any time, email us, smart@derby.ac.uk. Okay, so thank you very much for listening.